Gotta.
Okay, so Weso, thank you for joining me today. Let me just position myself so I'm in the middle of the camera. Thank you so much for
That's a
joining
good
me.
thing. Yeah, of course, dude. I'm excited for this one, honestly. It's fun just talking about Blaston. I like doing it.
Right, no, and also I'm really excited to talk about Blaston specifically with you because for a long time I've maintained that you have one of the most unique and probably thought out, not approaches but understandings of the game. Um,
It may not look like it. It honestly may not look like it.
oh yeah, no, I will be
I
honest.
mean,
It wasn't until me and you spoke in an Ozo session where you were taking me through the game, I was like, holy shit, he knows so
the
much more
tether,
than me. Before
the
then, I just
famous
see you in the
tether training
Discord.
session. Yeah, I talk a little too much trash for my own good, but gotta have a little fun.
Oh, I think it's great. I think the community kind of needs it because one of the things I love about the community so much is because it's a really nice, kind of peaceful, lovely atmosphere. But then having someone just throw a load of trash talk in there is just, I'm a messy bitch. I love it. So thank you for joining me on Easter. Happy Easter to everyone watching.
Yes, of course.
So I think the best place to start is do you just want to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself before we dive into some
Y-
questions?
Yeah, I can do that. So, I had to come prepared today to flex off my long time standing blast on back box championship winning career that I have. Um, I've been playing since October something of 2020. So you do the math, a long time. Long enough to win a bunch of hammer E's that I can clamp with. Several tournaments nobody cares about that I bring up years later. And I've seen a lot of game balances. A lot of them. Going from something like double purple laser all the way up into the weird Luma Nova weird quick draw stuff that we've got going on now. It's been a lot. But I'd say I've pretty consistently kept up with the community in the sense that I've always been relevant. I can't talk in tournaments in the sense that I'm at least going to be in the top 5 or the top 10 or whatever. I'm at least going to show up.
No, I would say that the one thing about you as a player is that you're not often, I suppose, seen in queue so much so. But as soon as you turn up to a tournament, no one is betting against you, just because we will know what you can do. At least the pro players do. New players might
Unless
not.
your name is Tim.
Well, we all,
Then there's no
everyone,
winning.
I suppose. So to kick us off,
But
I
yeah,
think
I mean,
no.
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was just going to dive straight into some questions I had for you, kind of jumping off points
Let's
more
do
than
it.
anything. But if you wanted to say something just there, we can go straight into that. There's no kind of set order to this interview.
I was just gonna go right into, you say I'm not very much one for Q, and that's kind of true. I really don't think you can gain a whole lot of knowledge from Q at all. Like you can practice your accuracy with some weapons and more fundamental combos, like okay, muscle memory, but as you'll learn pretty quickly, just because you can do a good combo doesn't mean you can actually, adapt yourself to the game. It's just like you can learn a bunch of formulas, but they're not always going to carry you through to get the win. I mean, sometimes they can. I mean, you'll get players that just have these super good, overwhelming combos, and it'll clean up pretty much anyone that they come across in queue. But if you go into a tournament and you play these people that are, oh, well, they're used to this combo, and they'll just shut it down real quick, and then you're kind of screwed.
Are you saying that Super Majestic Double Viper isn't tournament ready? I don't know what's happening.
um, no, no, I'm not.
um,
You can clean up the top 10.
so I think the first thing I kind of wanted to touch on was that your playstyle is kind of often credited as one of the most unique. You know, out of everyone, you're the most kind of unexpected and different we see when it comes to high level play. Um,
Right.
Could you kind of explain your approach to in-game strategy and kind of what your focus is on when you're essentially in-game playing against the other person? What are your strategies? Um, I
The
suppose.
first thing that would come to my mind is, how do I surprise them? How do I give them something that they're not used to playing, or force them to play on my level? I'm not going to give them a bunch of things that they're used to or let them control the fight on me. I want to constantly be throwing something different at them so that they're always on edge. And so some of the ways I sort of do that is I do little unconventional pushes. I'm not afraid to, most people when they get a big combo coming their way, they'll back up and shield it and dodge out of the way. But I'm one of the players you'll probably see lunge forward, and try to really counter hit them back a lot, because sure, I'm most vulnerable at the front, but they're also at the very front trying to get damage. So it's pretty easy for me to be able to like lunge forward, get some hits on them, and potentially even surprise them into knocking themselves off balance. I've had a couple players just fall over when you lunge at them, and then you can hit them with some even more things. So definitely try to surprise my opponents. That's the big one.
So another key aspect of your playstyle, which is probably brought up more than any other aspect, is you have a very high energy
Dodging.
and there's the dancing. So, is there a specific reason behind the dancing or the very high energetic movement, which sometimes a lot of players wouldn't do because I mean we see it a lot when you're not even dodging. What's the theory there?
So we'll start with the dancing. I mean, there's really, I mean, like you could argue, yeah, it's mind games or whatever, because after you just get hit by like 40 damage and your opponent starts discoing on you, like what better form of torture is there? But no, mostly I'm just having fun. I like to keep it fairly lighthearted when playing games. It's if I get too serious about things, it'll get too dark, and then you'll see me suicide, and so then I just dance. It's way more fun. It keeps you upbeat, and I don't know, it kind of keeps you on your toes too. But as far as like my high movement, dodging, explosiveness kind of things, I kind of view the podium as a clock. I've said this a few times, and I will dance from the 12 o'clock position and lunge all the way down to like 5 o'clock. And most players, they'll just barely move at all. They'll stay in the same position and they'll go up and down and maybe a little side to side, but they're not lunging all the way across their podium that I would do. And I know some people are wanting to know why, and mostly it's for counterattacking. It's because if I get all the way to the side of the podium like that, it makes it far easier for me to make an unpredictable shot on them and force them to an offhand position with an ellipse weapon, which makes it harder for them to curve at me. I also jump super far to the side because it helps bait nades that they're going to throw with their push. It's like a pre-bait, basically. So that way if they throw it, it'll go there. And it's far harder to trap somebody if they're constantly over their podium. I mean, that's the best part. I mean, you hardly get trapped, and when you do get trapped, you can draw block your way out.
No, I mean, what I'd say that I noticed most of all from your games is I think among most players, if not all players, you do drop, not you do counter pressure, probably the most effectively out of any player. So would you say that's a big part of your
I
game
do it a
style?
lot. Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in more offense is your better defense, and when it's really hard to do an effective combo when you're having to dodge yourself, especially with ellipse weapons. I mean, it just makes it so difficult.
Um, and just going back to the dancing, so and kind of the high energetic play style. So would you say that a good summation of some of the advantages of it, not perhaps why you do it, is that it makes yourself a very unpredictable person and it kind of keeps the opponents on their toes? Uh,
Yeah, I'm all about that unpredictableness. If they don't know where I'm going to lunge to, they cannot set up a trap. Players like Josie and the top five in general, they're masterminds at luring you to a spot. They are able to use their curves to pinpoint you to a spot they want, and then they'll have a curve viper or a luma or a nade, and it'll land right where they want you to land. And you'll just eat it. But if they don't know where you're going to react to, and they can't effectively move you where they want, then it's going to make it a million times harder for them.
In one way, it almost sounds like it's implicit counter pressure without having to fire a shot.
Yeah, it just messes. It's messing them up. Yeah, just like you said, without having to fire a shot, it just messes up what they're trying to do, and that's my whole game is just messing them up as much as I can.
And on the other hand of the equation, it also serves to be quite a good mental lift for yourself because it keeps it fun, it keeps it friendly, so it gets you in the right mental zone as well. It's I don't want to say
Right.
it's just a mental game between you and them, but it seems to have lots of different advantages. The only problem is that it seems, at least from an outsider's perspective, to be a very
To
hard
drain
play style
energy.
to implement. It takes quite a lot of skill and quite a lot of energy and cardio.
Yeah, for sure. Luckily I'm young, so yeah, I'm working up a good sweat, but it's not like I'm ever truly to the point I'm gonna fall over in the middle of a match. The best of seven with Monty Ban, that my legs did feel like jello after that, I won't lie. But it does take a lot of practice, and I think it's something that's hard to learn because it's like my dodging style has evolved over the past 2 years of me playing the game. It's like mixing up a lot of different dodging styles into one, really.
I remember you once said that O Shape, the VR game O Shape, was the key to getting really good at Blaston touching. And I remember
I
thinking, I played that game. That's bollocks because I played that game a lot, and I am no.
I stand by O shape can help you dodge hammer clamps.
uh,
But
so
yeah, it's,
no, I was going to the next question because I ran out of stuff to say. Please do go on.
yeah, I was just gonna say, sort of adding on to how my dodging's changed. It's not just my dodging. If you look at players like Woody, it's they're sort of in a similar boat to me, where we've kind of evolved over. We still have old habits, but they've just shifted with every new release. Versus some of these players are coming in and learning the new fancy tricks or whatever. We just have a lot of these things that have sort of come with us, and so we have a lot of unique twists to how we approach things, just because we're ancient.
What I think probably will surprise you is I've been playing Blaston as long as you have, or at least I picked it up in November 2020. I just never got good until like a year later. So no one realized I was there.
But to be fair, you weren't really showing up in a whole lot of the tournaments, if I remember correctly.
Oh no! I was going through a whole phase in COVID, which was not helpful for doing well in
Yeah,
Boston.
for like the first few tournaments, that's what really helped push us along. And I stand by it. Every new tournament, the people just they show up, and we learn something new from every tournament. Versus, every season in Blast on like in Q, it just doesn't really do anything for me. But these big competitive tournaments, that's when people show up.
Well, I've always been a big advocate for as many tournaments in Blaston as possible, which is why we put on the Fab Cups. It's why I got involved. Well, the reason I got involved with VRML is not because of that. It's because Sloyd helped me with all of my tournaments, and then he was the only one doing it, and I was like, I can't leave you alone
Gotta help him.
here.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
so
that's
so
fair.
on that note, do you think that tournaments are pretty much the biggest part of pushing us forward in terms of skill level?
Yes, I'm a huge advocate of tournaments, just as yourself. I'm still not. I know you're a VRML guy, but I'm still not sold on leagues yet. I know that realistically, in real life, sports leagues, huge things. But I just don't think there's enough. I don't know. It's wrong to say, but there's just really not a whole lot of incentive for me to dunk on a bunch of people that aren't even close to my level.
Hey, just to throw it out there, every time I've spoken to an organizer, including VRML, I've said let's do tournaments, not leagues. But VRML was very focused on doing a league, and I was like, yeah, let's try it, see how it goes.
Yeah,
But no, I prefer tournaments. I prefer, you've got a week, maybe 2 weeks everything gets done there. You stick
Yeah,
to the same patch.
it's so. Yep. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't. Nobody thinks the Blaston's going to do a patch for VRML, but then we get in this situation where we haven't had a patch in quite a long time now, and so it's like we kind of need something.
Well, like VRML season one, if you remember, it had the whole league. Okay, I know, I helped run VRML and I like wrote the rules, but I can't control how it shapes out. And
Right.
this was actually a really bad thing which happened to it, which was you had the whole league, so you had all of like the weekly matches, and then
Right.
just before the finals, a new patch dropped, which changed everything. And
Yeah, that's all good.
Resolution, to their credit, did basically say to us, "Hey, we can try and do this software so you can play on the old patch, so that nothing will have changed." But it was so hard to implement, and we could only get like 30-50% of the players to actually make it work on their quests,
Yeah.
that we just gave up and just got
Hmm.
stuck with a new patch. So that is another downside of leagues, in my opinion.
I agree. Finding time for things is it's rough, especially for somebody like me to try and also when you've got so many players that could be playing um at different time zones, it just gets messy.
The one thing I will say though that I am very pleased about VRML, just on this note before we move on, is that I did think it actually brought quite a lot of new players to the game, just from other VRML
Oh,
areas.
oh, definitely. Especially, I mean, we're seeing a big influx of a bunch of people from Echo, obviously, especially as Echo's getting closed down. But um, a lot of the other games too. I will have to agree there. It's always good to see a bunch of new faces. I mean, we've had a lot of people that have tried to establish themselves prominent here, at least in the community.
No, it's got quite a lot of people through the Fab org, but I will stop pitching myself. So let's just go back a bit to strategy within Blaston. And the one thing I kind of want to touch on you with a bit more was loadout strategy, because recently you said to me that
Yeah,
a loadout to be viable has to be 3.7 or under seconds, something around that figure.
stand by it.
You stand
Yep.
by it. Okay, well, I'm not going to disagree with you on this. I might think different things, but can you kind of explain to me, when you're building a loadout, what are your key considerations in the creation of said loadout?
Key considerations are first, for example, we'll start with like when this meta started forming, when the Nova Nade got buffed. The first thing that we were all thinking about, and myself especially, was what is the fastest two weapon or one weapon combo we can use to disarm the opponent? I would call this your disarming combo. And right now it consists of like Raptor and Raptor, double Raptor. That seems to be like the single most effective way to shield bait in a way. But I also then consider your DPS. Prior, we've had it be Viper E, we've had it be Hammer E, chip damage all the way down, and we've had snowballs, nades, all kinds of things. But you want to think about the single most powerful item for DPS, strictly DPS. Now, one might argue Luma, one might argue Nova Nade. I'd argue both. And so that's why you'll see a lot of players that are picking Double Raptor, Luma, Nova Nade. But I also think about to those two things. So, what is the most effective way to counter Nova Nade? Well, it's going to be Hammer. So then you have to think about ways that you can deal with an opponent's hammer, whether that's an item that you pick. Some people might pick another nade because then they're going to have to nade snipe it down, which is where you'll see Majestic Nade come into play, for example. You're overwhelming their counter in a sense. And so you want to think about what makes your build good, but you also want to think about what makes your build bad. And so that way you can take an item or two that's going to help counter the counter in a sense.
So, just to touch on Hammer for a second, I think I'm
Yeah.
not wrong in saying that Hammer is your favorite weapon, or you think it's one of the most.
Charge Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charge Hammer is probably my favorite item in the whole game. Yeah.
Excellent.
Um, and it's just so versatile, and it has what I like to call a classic Blaston weapon DNA to it. And classic weapons are things that are versatile, they're effective, and they don't have weird physics to them. Things like that aren't classic, I would say, is something like Nova Helix, Swarm, Tether's kind of up there too. Vandal. So basically, most of the newer ones have gone away from this classic simple weapon. You can shoot it as a shotgun. You can use it as a combo starter. You can use it as a nade denial. They're multifunctional, but they're simple that everyone can understand them depending on what level you're at. Versus some of these other ones, they're just so one dimensional that it sort of takes away from the beauty of the old weapons that we used to have.
No, I'd agree with that. Was there a reason that you didn't bring it against Monty? Just out of interest, or is it just not fit the current meta?
Um, a little bit of it didn't fit the current meta, but also Monty is so focused. He's sort of like a machine. He's focused. It's almost in a way like 24 that he is so focused on everything that you throw at him that he doesn't want to get hit by it, right? Where I'll make trades to make a better trade, I'll get hit you back harder. Monty in 24 is like I won't get hit. I'm shielding it, I'm dodging it, whatever. And so I opted to take another nade to throw to distract him from above because they're so paranoid about things above them and to the side of them that it's more effective, basically.
See, that's a really interesting part of your loadout selection we hadn't actually touched on, which was how, from what I get there, you build your loadouts around who you're playing. It's not necessarily about the best loadout for all weather, because that's what queue players do. As you're someone who doesn't like queue, you just focus on each individual match and how you're going to target your specific opponent. So let me give you like a hypothetical. Let's suppose you're like 6'6", you're not very coordinated, not particularly good at the game, and you got Slowed. How do you beat him?
Well, Slowed is fast, right? So that's what I'd start with first. He's fast. He's short. That's a big one. Short people, what do they like to do? They like to go low. How do you force them low? You take Fortress Nova. Okay? You take Fortress Nova, and then you combine it with the cheapest, most effective current nade in the game, Majestic Nade. Majestic Nade's going to allow you to bait out some of his things while apply a lot of counter pressure because he always uses low cooldown items. And when a player uses low cooldown items, you need to have something cheap and efficient to counter pressure them with, or else they're just going to keep throwing stuff at you over and over again. And it doesn't matter how big your combo is, they're just going to dwindle you away. So Nova Nade, Fortress Nova Nade, Majestic Nade, Double Raptor, Aegis Shield, and I would probably this is gonna be a weird one.
We got HP Nova, Nova Nade,
Mm-hmm.
Double Raptor, Aegis Shield. Oh no, we got 5. Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. I can't count apparently.
It's not Nova Nade actually. It's Majestic Nade.
Oh,
I wouldn't actually recommend taking Nova Nade against Slowed. I would take Luma instead of the Nova Nade.
Okay. Well, tune into my
I'm
next
being
match
completely
versus
honest.
Slowed when I disappoint you. I will try and do that loadout.
Hey, when it works though.
Well, if it doesn't work, I can at least blame one game on you. That's avoiding responsibility. I love it. But
Name of the game, blame Weso.
So, are there any specifics? For example, like I know that your biggest scrim partner is JJ. Do you have and I know you've got a match coming up with him, so I'm not going to ask you to give me any specifics to give away the game. But do you have, for instance, a loadout that you've been building to try and counter JJ's strengths and weaknesses?
Yep.
Yes, but that's as far as we can take it. But I look forward to seeing
That's all I'm saying. I mean, no, but on an honest note, it's hard when you're playing a person like a scrim partner because you want to bring everything a new loadout. You want to test it with your scrim partner, right? Because you want to see if it's effective against other people. But when you're trying to build something against a scrim partner, it's like do I show it to him? Do I play it with him once, twice, multiple times? Do I get good at it with him? Um, a little of both, maybe. It's just hard because he's literally the only person I consistently play. I mean, I try to play him about twice a week, and he's yeah, I stand by. He's the most. He'll get you good. He'll get you real good. But yeah, I've got a loadout in mind that I'm fingers crossed is gonna work like I have envisioned in my mind it working based off of our matches. But we'll just have to watch the stream and see.
No, I think it's good. I think everyone's very excited to see that match. I think no shade to you. I think the favorite is JJ, but I think from what I hear from everyone in the Discord, JJ is the favorite in every match he plays this season. So
Oh, everyone! It seems pretty. Everyone seems to be pretty much acknowledging him either number one or two right now. I would
well,
definitely lean on the number one spot right now. And that's just because he never disappoints. The guy has never he's never had an embarrassing mess up like some of us have. Surprise.
no, I mean that is true. I don't think anyone's disagreed with him being in the top two for since at least
For a long while.
way before Val Summer, like since maybe the start of
Yeah.
2021. Like I mean, like, maybe
I
like
mean,
March 2021 onwards or something.
that guy has completely helped shape the way Blaston is being played. And a lot of people always like to talk about the hammer lips meta, but he's so much more than that. I mean, he just excelled at it. But every season, you can count on him to be a master at building a new loadout. I mean, the loadout I used that I talked about against Monty, that's his loadout. I play it my way, but he's the one who originally first showed it to me.
But the thing I've always thought about JJ, and let's get off the topic of JJ after a little bit because I do want to focus on you
Yeah,
while
we'll
I've got
stop
your time
simping for
here.
JJ. Right.
But the one thing I will say lots of positive things about him. But when it comes to loadout picking, whenever someone says who's the best person to get loadout advice from, I always think the answer is JJ because his explanations of why weapons work or how they fit in or like why they're good universally can be understood by pretty much everyone from every
Yes,
level.
absolutely. He can
Whereas,
give a build to somebody that is 500 LP just as effective as the one he's given a 1600 LP. Versus, I might say, this is my favorite build. I think this is super good to use. But unless you're playing it the way I goofily play it, it might not work for you.
well, that's just it. I mean, I think most top players, when they give build advice, Jay is one of the few people that can separate his skill from his advice, whereas everyone else just assumes you're as good as they
Exactly.
are.
Yep. Or if you can't play it, you're bad. It's not the loadout. But I mean, like, there's a way to give people a good loadout that is fit for what arena or what rank they're in.
Yeah. Um, every time JJ's given me advice without it being public, I've then told everyone that was my original thoughts for ages. I mean, you know, Split Raptor. I've talked about why that's good on stream in VRML, and I started
Oh
talking about it in
yeah.
VRML finals, and the night before JJ was telling me about it. So
I think I can. He and I both didn't think that would be very good at the start of the season, but then I used it. I forget who I used it against first. Maybe it was an EU player. I don't know, but it actually works quite well. And then everyone started realizing, yeah, this weapon we all thought is bad. Split Raptor it's one of the most it's one of the best choices you can take now.
I think
I'd stand by that for all the Raptor attachments. Really, they're all just so good.
yeah. I think my least favorite is ammo, to be honest. But I think we have a
See,
disagreement about that.
yeah, and JJ disagreed with me on it too, and it took the power of 4 or 5 scrims to make Josie Christ believe in it like I do, but I actually think that it's Speed Raptor is my least favorite of all of them, and and I just used it to win against Monty. So that just shows that I think all of the Raptor attachments are very good, and it just depends on who you're playing.
Yeah, I think they're very good. I think the cost of getting them in terms of grinding those attachments is ridiculous. It's like 1,000 damage
Attachments are
with Raptor
yeah,
to get one of the attachments. I was like,
yeah. It's attachments. They're another topic of their own. I don't. You know, when you've got players that are in the top 5 or top 6 like me that don't even bother unlocking some of the attachments, like I don't even have like fourth of the attachments because I just don't think they're worth grinding for what it's worth.
I've got all of them except Lance Rapide attachments, and I am very proud of that fact. Um,
Oh, I wish that's the one I didn't have.
so just on a subject, because this is something which I think gets talked about probably most in the Blaston community. Which attachments are overpowered, which weapons are overpowered, which ones are underpowered. What balance changes would you like to see? And I know one of them is going to be fixed tether. Let's just get that out of the way. But sort of,
Yeah, it goes Tether's obviously on my top. I can't even say Tether's on the top of my list. I mean it is, but it isn't. It just Tether. Me and JJ were just talking about this the other day. That Tether, it just even if you buff it to be speed good right now, it's competing with some of the most broken counter pressure items. Like with the buff of Majestic Nade, Nova Nade, you have Luma in the game, all the Hammer Nade attachments, Raptor E attachments. I mean, someone who grabs that tether and is a sitting duck might have been fine in 2021, but they're going to get absolutely just screwed over.
so it should at least do
But
something right now.
it should at least, yeah, it should at least speed something up. Or I don't. I'm a fond person of a rework. We've had our, but we're gonna move away from tether because I could talk about that for a while. Realistic changes. I don't want to crucify Luma as much as everyone says to, but it does need work. Um, I would. I know this is gonna sound a little bit strange, but I want the HP. I want the HP changed on it. I want it to be lowered for sure. I want it to be because a lot of people find it difficult to drop block, and to be fair, it can be. But
Do
I
you mean the
want it to be
collision on it
drop
lowered?
blockable. Yeah, or the collision. Yeah, I said HP, didn't I? Collision. I want you to be able to drop block it with pretty much any weapon in the game because it takes. If you can drop block 3 Lumas that are coming Mach 4 at you, good on you. That's you got to aim them better if you're getting them drop blocked like that. I think the option should be there at least though because it's just a bow and arrow. I mean, if we can drop block all this other
A
crazy
sniper
raptor
gun like
bullets,
a
and,
Viper. We should be
yeah, a
able to drop block
sniper
an arrow.
rifle. We should drop block an arrow. That's
Um,
exactly. Um,
so
that's
when you say
definitely
any
one of the
gun, do you mean
things.
even like Raptors, which are 5 HP?
I I'm kind of torn on it still. I think the drop blocking system needs overhauled again. If I'm being completely honest, I I don't mean like every weapon, but mostly the weapons that are 4 cooldown and above. I think it's pretty fair to say that's fine with me.
So like a bounce
Um,
Viper kind of collision-esque area.
right. Yeah, Novanade, the fast one, its collision's got to be dropped. I want you to be able to 2-shot it with a raptor or double raptor it. So basically the 2 cheese balls. Right now you can shoot you can shoot the nade down with 2 raptors, but you can't shoot the actual Nova. So the actual Nova's collision I would definitely reduce. Another one that's not really talked about a lot is the third Wildcat attachment, the one that shoots like 16 bullets or
Yeah,
whatever.
the slow kind of Uzi-esque.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Its collision's just absolutely crap. It needs help.
But
That's one I would do.
what's the second Wildcat attachment? Is that Collision Wildcat?
Yeah,
That's
and
this one that's
that
so
one,
bad that no one even says fix it. It's just fuck it.
We don't even
No
talk.
point even looking at
Well,
it.
we all hold the same thing about the collision lance too. Just what you want is zero damage lances that don't even destroy anything. So I get the idea was to sort of deal with bunker, but I think we need to lean more heavily into using items like hammer to deal with bunker with the collision attachment. Like nobody's going to realistically take collision lance. It just doesn't work with the other attachments we have in the game. And let's see here. I would I would actually probably speed up the what was I gonna say? Obviously Majestics need help. Majestic Nade, the fast one that people finally use now, I think that should stay. That's good. Avenade. That nade could use a little bit of help. The attachments aren't very good on it at all. Some people like the one that you throw up really high and it slowly and then it speeds up real fast. That has wider spread. I would add a single or probably just one projectile to that one to make it a little bit easier because the spread on it's just crazy that only a couple of them are realistically going to even touch the podium.
Yeah, with that one, it really does seem that you're throwing it up high in the hope to land one of those beam cages when your opponent's distracted. It still
Yep.
feels like the best one to use, though. It's just almost as a distraction. But yeah, more.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm still a pretty firm believer that stock Avenade's the best one to use, but it's pretty close behind. I just think that they need help. I'm the biggest change that I want to see right now is the slight nerf to the Luma and the Novanade and buff the Viper E back up with collision. I want it to be have an undrop blockable attachment.
Well, so long as that undrop blockable attachment doesn't take the place of double curve, I'm full in support.
Yeah, no. I even if it's not an attachment. I mean, I know pretty much most of the top players we all agree that in order to make this game a more skilled competitive type of thing, we need to be encouraging the use of Curve Viper versus Luma. And it's and if but my thing is by making it an attachment, you can balance it better for the whole of the Blaston community versus if you just make it the stock Viper-y, it could kind of mess up the intermediate crowd a little bit. But collision's a pretty safe thing to do that like if you make the damage of the Viper-y 5 more damage, that messes up everyone. But if you only address the small crowd that actually drop blocks, that's perfectly reasonable and not really too far a stretch to ask for, really.
So, when it comes to in-game balancing, because what you're talking about there is trying to balance for the whole community. Um, what's your take on the idea that weapons should be balanced so that they could be played? Every single weapon could find a position in top level play, versus the idea that some weapons which require more skill should be rewarded more at top level play, and the lower skill weapons shouldn't necessarily have a place there as much.
You know, I like the idea of having high skill, high reward, but I'm not a believer that if something's the hardest thing to do in the entire game, your reward level should also be just like massive destruction. So a nice in between there is what I tend to go for. I don't with the current weapon selection we have, it's not possible to make everything be in competitive play. There's some weapons that are just I'm just gonna keep it blunt that are just terrible weapons that have no spot in Blast on and we should just what they've really realistically done is just shoved them to the corner. We all think they're trash, but if you try and buff them, it gets messy. So a
So
lot of
can
weapons would need reworked.
so can you name names of these terrible weapons? Because I have my thoughts.
Terrible weapons.
Pardon?
Yeah. So the first one everyone agrees on is going to be Majestic, right? Obviously, Tethers got thrown into that, but it's a weirder scenario than Majestic because Majestic is just confused. It's very confused on what it wants to be. Whether it wants to be what Majestic Nade is accomplishing now, it wants to be a worse version of Super Majestic. It's a confused identity crisis. The next weapon I'm going to point out that I just absolutely cannot stand is Tundra. Or not Tundra. Yeah, I've already said that. I don't like Tundra. But I was gonna say Vandal. Sheer counter items to like bunker, that's just a bad thing to have. Like, sure, you could be like, oh, you nade snipe or whatever. But encouraging players to nade snipe with something like a hammer promotes way more skill than just a sheer counter pick item. It's just a lame excuse to buff some of the nades and things. I don't like Tundra, not because people are like, oh, I say it's bad. It's not really bad, but it's just too similar to like it's just in between Straight Viper and Luma, you know? Like it just has a gimmick of being a freeze gun, but it accomplishes the exact same thing. It's just a reskin.
So is there any type of weapon that you'd like to see introduced into the game then?
Yeah, again, I'm going to refer to this sort of classic weapon analogy of the older guns that we had, like hammers, the hammer being a shotgun, pistols and things like that. I want to see more variations of things like that, whether it's like a burst SMG. I know people might argue this takes place as an attachment for Wildcat, but I think there's ways you can sort of tweak the collision on an item like that and the damage to sort of make it take more skill. Instead of like a full auto placement that you get on an attachment, you kind of can take skill. Or we were talking the other day, me and JJ, about weapons that you could sort of toggle the shape that it's going to shoot. Um, so that way you could have more mix up on things, like almost like a cookie cutter. It can shoot a square this time or triangle this time, sort of depending on what sort of combo you're trying to create. I
Oh,
think we've got a good enough. Yeah, go
there's
ahead.
there's a weapon kind of like that in Divine Duel where you draw out the shape of what you want to shoot and it just shoots towards them, which is, I mean, honestly, Divine Duel could just be a place Blaston goes, we're just going to steal some of that. We've got similar game mechanics, so just steal some of the weapons because they've got some interesting weapons there, bit over the top.
They do, yeah. I always like to refer to Divine Duel sort of as a pickleball and tennis scenario. I think all the old blasters go to Divine Duel where they can wait 35 seconds for a shield.
Yeah, no, it's I did play. I played while I played for a lot while my Quest 2 was broken and my Quest Pro was broken. God, Meta customer service can be awful sometimes. Because I could only
Yeah.
on my Quest 1
No,
and I
I
could
mean
just
it.
only things worked, and it
I
was.
like Divine Duel. It's fun, but yeah, I think I don't see a way that we can't have similar ideas, but without copying. I mean, at the end of the day, they're both 1v1 dueling games. I just like to stay away from completely new mechanics, like something that you'd get with like Vandal and Helix. I just hate Helix. I just think we like to refer to these as guns that play the game for you, being Vector,
It's like
Bounce
a gun
Viper.
that just does a clamp for you. You press a gun, it does a perfect hammer
Yeah,
clamp. It's like
instead
that's
instead
pointless.
exactly instead of taking the time to learn to set this cool combo up, it's just like boop boop boop. Oh wow, I got an effective death trap that's going to do it for you. And that's the kind of things we really need to avoid. So more standard versatile weapons. That's I'm all about that versatility. Things that can be used for multi-purpose.
I still have nightmares about release Nova Helix. It would you could shoot it. It does 25 damage a pop, and a raptor doesn't take out the balls. It was absolutely a nightmare.
Listen, I'm not here to say that you guys were just bad at dodging, but personally, I don't think it was as bad as everyone said.
But I was bad at dodging. Okay, I was. That came out before you guys knew who I was because I was still trapped below Overlord. That was just me getting wrecked by like. I think I would have lost the
I mean,
box
like
bringing that back then.
it was atrocious for the average player. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But now it's just in an awkward spot where they just throw a bunch of stuff to try and make it good, but it just again it plays the game for you, and it's just I don't like that version.
So recently, Blaston has gone free to play, which I think a lot of us in the community are very happy about. So
Very much so.
we've got a huge influx of new players who are learning Blaston. And as one of the, I mean, if not the ultimate OG or one of the ultimate OGs of Blaston, what do you think are the things that new players need to focus on or should kind of put their efforts towards first in order to improve at the game?
Having fun and a consistent way to do it. If you do not, I know it's very generic saying thing to do, but if you do not anchor your love for Blaston before you enter the world of super majestic, double, like purple lasers, um, if you don't go into it with a good mindset that you're going to get dogged over and over and over again, you're just going to drop it. Like a lot of players, a lot of new players tend to, they get washed out and then they leave. Um, and so to sort of, like you were saying, to try and avoid that happening, things to practice, they need to practice the core fundamentals, which everyone's been saying. You got curves. You have to know how to curve Raptor E, Viper E, and Hammer E, obviously, because those sort of things are the quintessential way of understanding how a good combo works. If you can understand how to set up a trap, you can. That's all. I mean, that's all you have to know how to do. Know how to move your opponent around the board. Um, Dodging. That's dodging and traps. Those are really the two biggest things they need. Like little tiny techniques like drop blocking and little things like that. Not really something to worry about. It'll come later as you naturally just progress through the game. Dodging, you're going to get better at it, but it's something you should be focusing on. Understanding how you're turning your body in game, it's absolutely huge, especially with the new movement system.
I think that I had a lot of expectations for how you might answer that question. But the thing which kind of stuck with me was because this is something I always used to think, but completely forgot about it. So whenever I meet new players, I just don't mention it anymore. But what you said about having fun, I think that might be one of the most important things. Like for myself,
Yeah,
I only started to get good at the game when I played double vipers all the time. Because I was like, I just like doing this. It's fun. I don't care if I lose. I can do the
yeah,
windmill with these things. Let's go.
exactly. I still think that if you're on a big losing streak or something like that, you feel like you've plateaued, you're not getting better, reach out to some community members, do a little disco battle. Not like a dance off, but I mean like go to the lounge
Well,
and
if they
have a
play you,
battle
it
or
will be a
something like
dance off. So
that. But I mean, just like meet up with people in the community and have like little fun fights. Like mini tournaments with your buddies or something like that. Because Blaston it's really hard for a lot of people to get into. I got lucky. I had it easy. I progressed with the community versus there's so many things now that are just so discouraging for players as soon as they get, they just get thrown out into the ocean and all the waves are trying to drown them.
right, you've because when we first came about, we entered into the game with everyone else. So when we were leveling up, we were playing against people all the time. Since then, hopefully the free to play players have had a similar experience because of the influx of free to play
Yeah.
players. But there are times in queue where it's hard to find human opponents. Also, since then, it's twice as hard to get LP. They've halved the leveling at LP games, and you also have to you don't have, by the way, new players, they don't have to do just missions for attachments. They got to do three missions to unlock a weapon now. It's
Yeah. That has got to go.
Can you imagine if you're a new player and you sink in three missions,
Nah.
which can be it can be like 50 games, honestly, to get three missions done,
Yeah,
and
I
you
will.
picked majestic. You just quit. You just be like,
Wow,
this
this
first
looks
gun I've
cool.
got useless. I'm
Two
off.
tiny little peas. Yeah, honestly. I mean, I keep saying it, but I mean, I was really just lucky. I mean, there was, I don't know, like 22 weapons, 23 weapons maybe in the game when I started. And nah, it was like you played a couple matches, you got the credits, you bought it, you're like, wow, this is sick because all the weapons back then were actually cool. But now, like you're saying, I can't imagine. I actually cannot imagine having to do that for getting the weapons, and then the grindy attachments for them because some of the attachments they're not good. And you get a collision lance. Oh, this is terrible. I'm discouraged from getting the third one that allows me to shoot 4 of them, which is actually cool. So yeah, it's got to be fixed.
I just remember when I was talking to this player a bit, and they were like fairly new, and I was doing my normal like old school loadout, which is, and I was shooting my split raptor there, and they were like, "Why is that good?" And I did the whole thing of like, "It's good because you watch the bullets slow down, so it's on the podium longer, and it's all the." And they're like, "That's great." I was like,
Yeah,
and then I said, "All you need to do is get the raptor attachments." And then the guy messaged me back like a few hours later, being like, "As I mentioned earlier, it's 1,000 damage for the first with raptor for the first one." And I was like, "Oh god." All right, so you need to
I'm
go
not
and
gonna
make
lie.
bronze bot
I'll put
games and
out a
just
little
do that
secret
for
here.
5 times.
Me me and an unnamed player, I won't say who. When the attachment update dropped, we got on a call and we queued at the same time and just let each other get damaged.
Well, for the damage ones, when the attachment update dropped, I just
The
immediately
bots.
just tried to work out
The
how to game the
bots.
system. Training mode, brilliant.
Yeah.
1,000
Yep.
damage, that's 5 games.
Yep. Training we did training too after we figured that out. But then there's like, the infamous win in the third round. Like
Also,
I
I'm
just
100% sure I know which player that was because I remember it being the three of us who were trying to get the attachments all unlocked as soon as possible. So it's me, you, and a number. Um,
Actually wrong, so we're all good.
okay. Maybe it's a cat. I don't know. Um,
Not
so
24 this time, or 2-4.
yeah. Okay. Well, I actually did just assume it was 24, but I guess I missed the mark on that.
You did.
But it is a bit frustrating as an old school player because we all love this game so much, and we just want other people to love the game like we do.
Oh, we're locked in right now. There's no going back for us.
But it's hard because now recommending Blaston, it's kind of like it's like I hear myself recommending Blaston, and it sounds like the people who recommended me read the Wheel of Time book series, which I've never done because they all say the same thing, which is after book 7, after you've grinded through all of that starting thing, it really starts to get good. Because it's me going, after you've got all the weapons and the attack, you've got all these things. It's like, yeah, but that's like
Yeah,
fucking hundreds of
yeah,
hours. Like, what?
yeah. And that's sort of the problem because the beauty of Blaston was it was so simple back in the day. All these weapons. It's just everyone's got that fundamental point shoot move, and everyone, it's something we all understood. But now they're trying to expand the game. They've thrown out a lot of complexion that makes it like getting into a really complicated board game. And so, like you said, it is really hard for us older players. I mean, I know pretty much everyone who's been here for a while has had the pain of recommending it to a few other friends who got VR headsets, and then they play it and then they drop it. Like
Well,
it's just
I mean, I think what frustrates me most about it, just on a personal level, is that I would characterize the grinding system for Blaston like a free to play mobile game. Because it's a level of hours and work you have to put into unlocking everything. But those grinding mechanics serve the purpose for free to play mobile games of getting you to spend money to avoid all that stuff. With Blaston, it's just there. It's not, you can spend money and give us money and that's the benefit. It's not,
right.
you know, something else. It's just, we just have that there. Just have, here's some grind. Enjoy the grind. Why?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's frustrating. I'm really hoping I'm holding out for this next update, whatever it's going to be called. I'm hoping we don't have a glow down update. I mean, we'll see.
Well, I've got one of the feedback posts I've made, which I every few weeks I spam on the Discord, being like, just upvote this thing about how make it easier for new players. So
Yeah, and the canny feedback. Ooh.
we've talked about what you think new players need to do to improve, and again, just brilliant response of find something which makes you have fun. I think that's absolutely right. And while, for instance, I consider you yourself, Monty, Tess, JJ, and 24 to be the best players in the world right now, I would say that compared to the skill level that you guys are going to have in a year's time, you are significantly behind that. Just like if you compare yourselves now to a year ago, you're considerably better. Drop blocking was this new interesting thing which only a few people did like a year and a half ago or two
Oh,
years
it's
ago.
mastered now. It's crazy.
Now
Yeah.
everyone can do it. I can do it, which is mental to me because it always seemed like witchcraft. So the
Yeah.
point there is that there's always room to improve. So what do you think that the top level players, including you, should be focusing on to improve their game in the long term?
You know, it's really hard for us not to, because when we're doing these tournaments, like I've talked about, that is bringing out the best in everyone. Right now, it's hard to not get caught up in that whole, I got to use the meta, I got to use what's best. Players like Tess and Monty and them, those guys are really trying to pioneer a lot of fun new loadouts in competitive play, which is what really has to happen. We have to have people be able to use a non-standard loadout and beat a top player that's using meta. Once that happens, we're gonna have a pretty good chunk of creativity coming out. And I think that's really the big thing is people have to still keep getting creative in their scrims. They got to throw in that one random item they may not see a purpose to, because you might try something new with it. You might shoot it in a way that's never been shot before, and it might work. It might fall on its face and backfire, but you could be that first person that drops a gun into a bullet and calls it a defensive move. I mean, you never know.
I mean, let me tell you, we talk about how Majestic is terrible, and I'm not by instance any means saying I'm a top player, but Monty has wrecked me with Split Majestic enough times for me to fear that. It's also doubly embarrassing because you just lost to a Majestic in the loadout. But Split Majestic is actually kind of scary in the right hands.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people will touch on weapons, see some result, try it against the top player, see little result, and just give up on it. They'll just call it a failure and move on to something else. Versus the players that are really working at it, they're giving it a fair attempt. They'll try it 4, 5, 6, 10 times against the top player. Um, that's what scrims are so good at, is if you can actually stick to something and give it a fair shot, it might actually surprise you.
But just touching on Monty and Tesseract bringing a wide variety of builds. That's Monty about a year ago, or maybe just under a year ago. Tesseract told a few of us, Monty included, the best way to improve is to learn the meta through and through, 100%. You are very, very good with it. And then once you've done that, stop playing the meta and play all of the worst weapons in the game and just try everything so that you know what it's like to play with a bad loadout. And if you
Absolutely.
kind of chart Monty's progression, he played bullet hell so much that it
Emery,
was
yep, yep.
for a while everyone's like all he can do is
Everyone
bullet
thought
hell.
that's all he could. Yeah, yeah.
And now he's one of the most varied and diverse players. So that's a really interesting answer. Is that something that you yourself are trying to do a lot, or are you just more focused on the next
100%.
event?
I mean, many days I set aside, I'll bring a little unconventional. I might bring a split lance nade or something like Vector that's not seen a lot of use. Even sometimes Frostbite. I'll use a lot of these in scrims against JJ. When I was first starting out my competitive journey in Blaston, I would set aside days that I would focus on just using two weapons, like Raptor and Raptor-E. I want to see how effective I can get this combo to be, how effective I can defend with it, so you can actually just specifically master a couple weapons at a time. Instead of using a whole loadout and basing the progress off of that, I was being able to base weapons effectiveness in all of the areas. It's attack, it's defense, it's counter pressure. And so then later on, you can be like, okay, that weapon was actually really good at counter pressuring this. Let's give that a try in the loadout. And so I think if you set aside some time to really work at some weapons, and just the weapons, not in a whole loadout, that can really benefit you in a lot of ways. Just like I would recommend, take a round and just dodge. Don't shoot back. Don't do anything. Just focus on dodging combos. Then focus on dodging with counter pressure, and then eventually focus on attacking back. Just break it down into categories and work on fundamental things.
Okay, so I think I've run out of questions I prepared, to be completely honest. So I'm just going to kind of put this over to you. Um, what do you think is something that most of the Blaston community doesn't realize about Blaston that they probably should? Or what is something that specifically you don't think gets talked about enough?
I don't think we talk about how good this is as an actual community. I mean, like the game aside, it it just completely blows all the other Discord communities to shame. I mean, like it's truly like a tight knit soccer mom Facebook group chat. I mean, that's the best way I can think of describing it. I mean, we just have so much daily interaction that just happens. It's never really talked about how well Blaston has really brought such a diverse group of people together to bond over something.
I will say that there are two communities in online communities which I think kind of match that. It's Blaston, which is the community I fell in love with, but also I can already see in chat I've got people from the other community about to saying "say it, Cap," which is Knock. I don't think you've ever played Knock, but the Knock community is
I yeah, I've been
similarly
meaning to
tight.
give it a go sometime. That's
I'm not good at Knock. The only reason that I'm actually so intertwined with Knock is because similarly to the Blaston community, it's like these guys, I love them. They're brilliant, and they're also really tight. And really, what it is it's two communities who have this amazing game that they all love. But no, but it's so small that you can form those interpersonal connections with each other.
exactly. Yeah. I've been meaning to give Knock a try sometime. I mean, it, yeah, I mean, the tight knit community aspect of this game is just wonderful. When you've got like these daily personas that show up, and it's just like it's like a little active neighborhood.
I think also, just touching on that, I do want to just give a shout out to the community managers in these communities. I say
Defer
communities.
does such a good job.
This is kind of a blast on focus one, so we can talk about Towelie in a different time, guys. Obviously, Towerlie's great, we love him, but Defer does. I mean, Defer really goes out of his way to really try and make Blaston an incredibly
Oh my
overwhelming
goodness,
the
yeah. And
inclusiveness.
he's the perfect blend of reasonable and outreaching to being professional. He's perfect.
I don't think I've ever seen someone have a problem with Defer. People have had a problem with the Discord mods, no doubt. I've had that problem. But
we've purged that. It's a new thing. We
it's
have
a
a whole
new
bunch of
thing.
lovely people. We're good. We're good.
um, but
That's
Defer's
we're fine. When you put someone like Allium in as a moderator, we're saved. She's got us all covered.
I twisted her arm and promised if anyone ever came for her, I would go for them with 1,000 times over propaganda campaign.
Yeah.
Um, but how would you say, like, if it has the Blaston community has had an impact on your life?
Other than thinking about it literally every day, every time at work, clamping down the hallways, literally anywhere I go. That was wow. That looks like something from Blast on it. It literally is a daily part. But I mean, I was never really involved strongly in like a gaming sort of, like I've said a lot of times, Blaston is my first and like only Discord server. Every other server is something created by a Blaston member or is by Resolution Games. And it was really my first experience with something like that. And it just fits the perfect competitive urge that I want that I got from playing a bunch of sports and things. Um, but it also, like we were just talking about being tight knit and whatever. It's just I don't know the best way to describe it. It's really a daily part of my life.
From this is your interview, but I will say that I'm 31. I've been gaming since for well over a decade now. Much longer than that. So I played many games over a long stretch of period. Like at university, I played like League of Legends more than I went to university. I was one of those. It's that. Um, But like you, Blaston's my first community that I've been a part of. It's the first time I've got involved. First, I made a Discord account, or no, I had a Discord account to chat to my friends, but it's the first time I joined a Discord server.
Right.
And it's I don't want to use the term parasocial because it's not parasocial. It's just a social connection with people within a game,
Yeah.
and just a unifying passion, and a good
And everyone
space.
hypes each other up. And I mean, we've seen some awesome, journeys. I mean, we've had like Woody and Baby Spine lately. I mean, it's people are just they're hyping each other up. They're doing good.
No, it's also it's been fantastic. It's fantastic exercise. That's the other thing we haven't really talked about here. I was a lot fatter than I was like last year than I am now, and a lot of that is definitely Blaston.
Oh, it's great exercise, really. And it's a real shame that Oculus Meta, whatever, hates them so much.
Well, it's
I
because
wish they could
I
get
think it's because they were like, yeah,
they
we'll put meta ads in the game, and then the
and then
community.
they backed out because they tried to listen. Yeah, but it was so bad because don't even get me started about the ad situation because yeah, Sporting Arena it would look fine.
Great.
Then they said they listened to the community. They didn't do it, and then the community still community the people that didn't even play the game are still review bombing the game.
It's still, I haven't played this game, but they're trying to increase ads on a paid game. F them. I'm like, it was never.
It's like you have no. Yeah, it's like nobody's coming.
I mean,
It's not like a story game.
look, let's be fair. The VR gaming space for niche games with the Blaster, they've got so much money. They don't need that ad revenue. Like, I mean, it's like that $10 or $20 from the limited subscriptions to server costs. They've got so much money. Why would they try and monetize further? That's crazy to me. No, I mean, I'm in support of anything which helps Blaston continue to be a game.
That's what I mean. Anything we can do to help these guys.
And I was always of the position that ads in a game would be a good idea, and that if the community was upset, you just give them some blasts every time they saw an ad. It's it's a way for them community to earn blasts that get some in-game skins. And unless you have been top 3 enough times, most people don't have enough blasts to buy everything they want, and would also just secure revenue for the game. But that's
right.
Well, everyone who loves the game will see that it's just a thing of there's going to be like a Kotaku article. I don't even know what sites there are that do gaming news journalism anymore because gaming journalism is kind of like esports organizations. It's not good for anything. But it's just very easy to be like, this game wants to put ads on your VR headset that you've paid for, and it's maybe now it's free to play, there'll be more understanding. But
right,
what I think should have happened is when it went free to play, it should have been re-promoted on the Oculus Store. But unfortunately, I never saw that. Anyway, that's just us complaining about why people aren't looking at our game enough. Because the annoying thing is, everyone who actually plays Blaston, who's been playing VR for a long time, goes, "This is great. We love it."
we just want whatever we can.
But no, I just see Arbo saying that some of the Steam reviews are still affected by the ad stuff. So, shall we see if chat has any questions while we're here?
Works for me.
Very rare to get to interview Weso, but while we wait for some of those questions to come in, top 5 aftershaves / perfumes. I know you've got an answer for me.
Say that again.
What are your top 5 aftershaves / perfumes? I know you're going to have
top 5. Top 5.
Rank them if you can.
All right. First, number 1, my favorite. We're gonna have Zhuzhov. We're gonna have Zhuzhov 40 knots. That's the first one. Followed behind that, I've got Zhuzhov Naxos.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Coming in third. Yeah, I know. I love them. Coming in number 3, I'm gonna have to give it to Mancera's Oud Lemon Mint. Yep. Oh dear me. Four. Four, I'm giving it to Mancera Sidropose. And number five, I'm going to give it to a relatively new pickup, which is Mancera's Tonka Cola. There's my top five. If you've even heard of a single one, I will be amazed.
Well, I have now, and I'll watch the stream back and try and pick one, and
See,
maybe get.
see, they should sponsor me because I was wearing one of them when I beat Monty. It gave me the power to win. So that way, it's a new. I need a sponsorship. They should,
I
it
mean,
gives you the
yeah,
power to win Blaston.
100%. Or if anything, you owe them because it gave you the power to win the last one, and it's just go either way.
No, no, only benefits me. You should know about this. This is what the
Oh
Fab
yeah,
Org is
no,
built on:
it's
selfishness.
um, but no, I'd be very interested to try them. My aftershave is one of my favorites is running out, and I need to replace it. So I will. I'll have a look, and then I can
You're gonna
just.
have to win a Blaston tourney to afford them.
I'm a financial advisor. Like what? Sorry, I don't mean to flex, but it's gonna be fine.
What originally drew me to Blaston? Okay, so I saw an ad on it. I'm like, okay, let's see. I'm trying to think. I feel like it was summer of 2020. They were heavily putting out a lot of Blaston ads, and I'm like,
On Reddit.
that. Yeah, there was a ton of, even my YouTube feed was full of them, like neon matrix style movement and dodging, and and then I looked up the price. I'm like, okay, what? No, that doesn't seem right. I'm like, I decided I'd give it a try anyways because it's $10, whatever, and I think that's what a lot of people did. $10, it's cheap. We can always refund it or whatever. If not, it's $10, and little did a lot of us know that $10, what we thought was going to be a tech demo style dodging dueling game, would turn into a 2.5 year long commitment tournaments and things like that, and potentially even an in person tournament, which I'm really hoping I can still try to make.
I maintain. Well, actually, no. I've stopped maintaining this now. Up until I started funding my own tournaments and paying for like website costs and server costs, I maintained that Blaston saved me a lot of money because before that I just buy all of the. It was in COVID, so I was buying like a new VR, like 2 new VR games a week, and just spending my whole time playing them. As
Yeah.
soon as I got Blaston, no more games. It's just like don't want to play anything else. This
No,
is what I like.
nothing can even potentially come close to it. That I play a new game and then I'm right back to the last one.
No. Yeah, yeah. I do try new games, but if anything, a lot of them just remind me what's so good about Blaston. Like look, I tried Broken Edge on your recommendation, and
I
the
stand
number
by it.
one ranked duelist, or number one seeded duelist for that tournament. Um,
Oh yeah.
and then after playing Broken Edge for enough time, it was just the community is hard for me to stay in touch with, and the lag is
Oh my.
just
The
unbearable for me.
community ain't blast on. No, yeah. It's
Um,
not one of those tight knit, lovely communities I would recommend.
yeah, to be honest, the day Blaston went free to play and that announcement dropped, I I picked up Broken Edge one more time because someone was messaging me being like what rank are you? And I was like, I just went, I'm still seventh in the world. Fantastic. They don't reset the elo if you're not there. I can just not come back and leave this where it is. But other than that, I just haven't played because it's like Blaston's the one you always go back to. Um. Oh. So.
Yeah, it's just perfectly balanced. I mean, every other game, like you said, it's missing one thing, and Blaston just fits that perfect urge.
We say it's perfectly balanced, but then we go to balance discussion. We're like, here's all the things which need to change. Here's all the things which I'm not happy about.
Listen, we crucify Blaston for all it does wrong, but we're all so quick to give it as much credit as it deserves.
Yeah. No, amongst us, it's like among your friends you insult them, but as soon as a stranger comes and says something about your friend, you're like, how dare you? You can't say that to him. Only we
Yeah,
can.
yeah. Only we can. Yeah.
Uh, so I
Perfect
think
way to look at it.
I might be out of questions, and I don't want to keep you too long in Easter. This might be a nice place to stop. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want us to cover?
I
I don't want to miss out
I
on anything, but I'm
I
trying to.
think that's a pretty. I think that covers about all I've got off the top of my head right now, and yes, some Easter dinner to finish up. So not a bad place to stop.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a really nice conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
No, I'm glad we could throw this together. I mean, I love talking about this game for as long as I can, and on such short notice, I'm glad you put this up. And for taking 40 minutes, the stream quality doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, I'm I think that this is something I'm going to try and do more with other players as well, because it's really easy to do. It takes like no setup, and I think that there's a lot of really insightful information that all these top players like yourself can really give us on the game, and very enjoyable for me.
Yeah. Well, with all that, oh, hold on, Turbo. Why am I wearing a hat? It's because I've got one of these boxes right here, the quick draw package. I don't know. Hopefully, you can see that. They sent me a hat along with my two other Blaston boxes for winning, for being top of the first ever Blaston season. Yeah, I just have a lot of Blaston things. But yeah, I think that should answer the last question there.
Well, thank you ever so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. I hope you have a lovely Easter, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself. And can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Have a good one, dude.
All right, take care.